Welcome to Let's Get Writing. I'm your host, Kathryn Musseau. Well, this is a show all about writing books and other things like songs, and who knows what's going to show up on Let's Get Writing. But today the topic is books, and in particular, books for children. And my special guest today is Dawn Baker. And Dawn, you're a prolific author of children's books.
I am.
You really are. How many do you have now?
This one is number 9.
Number 9.
Mm-hmm.
And the amazing thing is with your books, Dawn, it's not just writing the book, it requires so much more because you're also the illustrator of those books.
That's right. That's good and bad because it allows me, when I'm writing, I can always have that little voice in the back of my head reminding me that I'm going to have to paint these illustrations, so I can write with that in mind to make it a little bit easier on my own self when I do the illustrations.
So Dawn, when you're doing the illustrations, are you working from photographs or just from your mind, or how do you go about that?
All of the above. Generally what I do is if I can find a photograph, it's nice to have a reference of something, like in this case right here is the Empire State Building. And of course, no shortage of photographs of the Empire State Building that you can find for reference material. But I never copy anything exactly the way that it is. I'll just sort of use bits and pieces of it to make it work. And of course, the big thing with children's writing is you have to leave room for text. So there are often vast areas of sky or vast areas of grass that are very plain, intentionally so that when it comes time to do the layout, there's lots of room for text.
So really then, to appreciate your artwork, you have to see it in the completed
form,
which in this case is Commander Gander Goes to Come From Away. And this is your latest book, and no surprise, what a great idea for a book. You know, this is now a very successful, very successful Broadway play, and which I think you mentioned is now moving into Australia as well.
Yes.
Wonderful. But
amazing.
It is amazing.
Amazing.
And Dawn, the other aspect of this book, of course, is that it is related to a very tragic event. So,
yes.
I mean, how did you first get the idea to do it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the idea came from my husband and I. We traveled to New York last July to see Come From Away. I live in Gander. I've been living there since I was a teenager. And of course, I went to see the show when it was in Gander. And I had watched with great amazement and fascination how well it was doing everywhere that it went. And I thought, I need to go see this in New York if I get a chance. So we went, my husband and I, and we took this little guy. I took him in my purse. He's small. This is Commander Gander. This is a little stuffed toy, Stuffy, the kids call them now. I put him in my purse and I took him to New York with me. The intention was to do a Facebook post. I have found in the last couple of years that Facebook has turned out to be the best way for me to get information out to people who are wondering where I'm going to be or what I'm doing. So I thought, I'll make a cute little Facebook post with Commander Gander when I go to New York to see the show.
Absolutely.
And
great
that's
idea.
where it started. And once I got there, and we did, all of a sudden, I started to realize that he was getting a lot of attention. I'd pull him out and take a picture, and if there were people around, especially if they were in the area, of the theater and were going to the show, everyone wanted to know. And then I thought, maybe this would be a cute children's book. That's where the idea came from.
Wow, interesting. So, Commander, you have you have a great role in the inspiration of this book. So. Many things. He's pretty cute, I have to say, and much smaller. When you told me you were going to bring Commander Gander, I was thinking, okay, we're going to have a big mascot here on the set. But no. These are the size, I guess, for people to buy if they want a souvenir or a remembrance. But he's a pretty famous little guy now, thanks to you and thanks to many things.
He was famous long before me.
You know, Dawn, okay, in dealing with a book like this, a children's book, and the topic is wonderful, the Broadway play Come From Away, but it links also, to a very tragic event. So how did that feel, when you approached the idea of writing the book? How were you going to tackle that and handle it in the context of writing for children? It's a tough one.
It is a tough one. That is a really big and a really important question, and I struggled with it. When I was in New York, I was thinking, you know, I'm not sure that this is a subject matter that is appropriate to write a children's book. But the more I thought about it, I realized that this book is not going to be about 9/11. It's going to be about 9/12. It's going to be about 9/12 through 9/16 in particular, when the plain people, as we came to know them as, were in Newfoundland. But it also, and about after that, and how the stories grew and how people appreciated so much the care that they got here. So I thought if I just mention the fact that people needed help and they were helped, and talk more about that than why they needed help. And then let educators, let parents, let caregivers, as the child grows older, and ask the questions, why did the people need help? What happened that was bad? Then you could then expand on it a little further. You know, I saw an article, someone wrote an article about my book, and they said that it was a gentle introduction into a very dark time, and so that's kind of what I thought. It'll be a very gentle introduction. It's about how people helped other people when they really needed help, but it really isn't about so much why they needed help.
Absolutely, and that's what I got from it. I said
good.
to you, well, no, you know, I said to you, it is about helping and about people in need, and that message comes through very strongly, and I think that's a message that any child resonates with easily.
That's right.
Easily.
Well, good, and any adult as well.
And any adult as well. You're right.
Yeah.
We're all about that. And in particular, in this particular case, the residents of Gander and surrounding communities were themselves all about how they could help the plain people and get through that very stressful and tragic time. Now, that's beautiful the way that you handled it in there, and hopefully people will pick it up, because it's a nice read for anyone. I mean, what adult doesn't enjoy a children's
True.
book, really,
True.
at any time?
I love them.
I do too,
Love
and
them.
it's, of course, an easier read. But let's just jump inside your head for a minute. When you start, and you're going to do this, do you write the book first, or, you know, I'm assuming with your illustrations, you've gone to New York with the commander, so you must have said, okay, these are things that I'm starting to feel this come together.
Yes.
I'm going to want these shots.
Yeah.
And then, so is it kind of just all working together, or is one happening before the other?
The story happens first, but the way that I actually I type it, and I'm a very poor typist, but a keyboardist, I guess now. But I'm not great with that. It takes me a while. But I do put it in my computer, and I print it out. And I printed out a couple of sentences, you know, broken apart. And then the story, I try to keep it very short. I read it out loud slowly so that a parent or a caregiver would be able to read it to a child in approximately 5 minutes. That's my gold standard, 5 minutes, because I know how busy people are, and I know children like to have more than one book read and things like that. So I keep that in mind. So it takes me a while to work out exactly the wording, to try to say a lot in a few words. And I try to keep it short. I try to keep it very simple. And I keep in mind, as I said earlier, that I'm going to be illustrating this. So I keep that in mind as well. The story definitely comes first. While I'm writing it, though, just exactly as you said, I knew I wanted the Statue of Liberty to be in there. I knew that I wanted to have the memorial, the 9/11 memorial in New York. I wanted that there, and I could see it. I could see the commander standing there with his hat, his aviator hat.
He had it off.
Yeah, he rarely, this one can't come off, but he had it off, and he was holding it, you know, and bowing his head in respect. And I wanted that there, and I definitely wanted the mural that's on behind, the mural from the Gander Airport, which is, I think I can safely say, the most iconic art piece of any sort that's in Gander, Newfoundland, would be our fabulous mural that's at the airport. So I wanted that there. Those things I kept in my mind while I was writing the story, because I knew those things would definitely be there. Yeah.
Yeah, and so taking us, we'll have a look at some of the pieces that you did. So when you say about a 5-minute read, in terms of, and again, that depends on speed, understanding if you're reading to children and so on, and they have their questions in between
Oh,
there
yes.
as well, usually, don't they?
Yes.
And their comments. And but how many words offhand?
Now, I can't remember, but not a lot. I think there are maybe 1,500.
Maybe.
Yeah, around that. I do keep a count, but it's been a while. I wrote the story last summer, and I haven't gone back to check, but I do keep a word count, and I think it might have been around 1,500 words. So not a lot.
Not a lot, but 1,500 very, very well thought out words, because
thank
anyone will know that the less you write, sometimes the harder it is to decide what you're going to keep, what point are you going to make. And I thought that as I was reading through the book, I thought, this is interesting. This is how she's chosen to express that. And I thought it was really well done. It was a beautiful story.
Well, thank you very, very much.
So to produce all of this, it's been in your head, and then you have to do the paintings and so on. And what kind of time frame did it take?
Well, it takes me about 4 months to go from the start of the writing of the story to the last painting being done. I write the story fairly quickly, but I don't stop editing it until the last minute. So the first draft comes fairly quickly. Maybe it could be in one day, and but the rewrites and the changes and the sentences moving around and words going and coming, that doesn't stop until the end. And I start the paintings with a goal to doing 1 to 2 a week. So there's usually about 20 paintings in each book. So you're looking at about 3 to 4 months. I'm not really slow, but it takes a while. I do a drawing, and then I do an outline in India ink, and then I soak the paper and stretch it, and then do a full watercolor on top of that. So my goal is if I manage to do 2 in 1 week, I consider that a really good week, because that's a lot. But that's usually the pace that I keep myself at. So the actual work takes about 4 months from start to finish.
From start to finish.
Yeah.
And I was looking at these, and I thought, yes, they are watercolor. So I was on with that.
Yeah, you are right.
Let's have a look at a few of these.
Thank you.
And I'm going to try and get it so the light, because it's difficult.
They're covered in plastic for safety.
Yeah, and we have pretty
glare.
bright lights, so there we go.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's okay. And so, as you were saying, there is space for the words to be there. And this is obviously the Statue of Liberty. And is he using a little mini iPad to take his photo?
Yes, or a smartphone.
Or a smartphone.
Yeah, it could be a smartphone or a small iPad of some sort. Some sort of electronic device.
He's tapped in.
And he's taking, definitely. The commander, he's an aviator, and he enjoys all sorts of technology. So whatever is out there, he would have it. And so, he's taking a shot on his phone that he'll probably be putting out on Twitter and Facebook.
There you go, the commander.
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll just put this one down, and here
I
we
can
go.
hold it. Yeah.
Okay. Not always working with lovely, beautiful. They're very, very light. They're almost on a foam core.
They
you
are
mount
on
them
foam core. Yeah.
Okay.
Once the painting is finished, I tape them on a sheet of foam core so that they're light, but it gives them some strength, and people can handle them without.
Perfect.
Yeah. So these are some of the planes when they're leaving. This is when the people are leaving. And again, you can see a lot of sky with not much happening. That's because that's where all the text will be going. And that is up at the Gander Airport, where there are a lot of trees, but they're very low, close to the runway. And those are a couple of the planes that were actually in the line waiting to take off.
Yeah, you can see one up in the sky.
One's already gone, and the other two are,
which is totally the sense of what you get from that.
Oh, well, great. Yeah, that's what's happening there.
They were well lined up.
Oh, yes. Here
we go.
Yeah, and in this one you see the opposite. It's when they were arriving. We have them in reverse order. But here, and this is very unusual for Gander because, of course, Gander is still an international airport, but as we all know, a lot of the traffic flies over us now, unfortunately. But that day, everybody was landing, so you could go there and you could see one plane landing, getting out of the way, and another plane, and you could look in the sky and you could see them as far back as you could see, one behind another, just like you would maybe in like Heathrow or, a major
Chicago,
yeah,
Atlanta.
exactly, right? Like this
LA,
is not
not
Gander,
Gander.
not Gander. No. That day we turned into a major airport, so that was very interesting. So I wanted in this to just show that the one just landed. There's another one waiting to come in and land, and one right behind that.
Yeah, it was pretty phenomenal. When you
Yeah,
think
very
back at
unusual for us.
how they were able to do that. And moving right along, here we
Yep.
go now. We're at the play with some of the, or after.
Yes, this
You
is
tell me-
after
you
the
t-
play.
after
This
the
is
play.
after the play. Well, I wanted Commander Gander, I wanted his experience
Turn
to
it the right
mirror the experience of a lot of people, including myself, that live in the central Newfoundland area or anywhere in Newfoundland who have gone to see the play, especially if they've gone to see it in Toronto or in London or in New York or any of the places outside of Newfoundland, the reaction that you get from the other members of the audience, and if they find out that you're from Gander, and the reaction from the cast, because the cast will always go to the stage door after the performance and chat with people that are standing there. And I did that when we went, my husband and I stood there. I got my playbill signed and autographed by him and chatted. And once they know that you're from Newfoundland, all of a sudden it's a big hug. It's so let's get pictures. And I wanted to show that here. So I have the Commander. And of course, being a Newfoundlander, I had to include the two Newfoundlanders.
Exactly.
Well, what else could I do?
Yes.
So I have Patrina Bromley, and I have Romano on the other side. Windsor, is he not? Romano Danilo? Yeah, he's a musician, and he's originally from Grand Falls, Windsor, from what I understand. And in the middle there, with the Commander, is Jen Colella, who is the lady that plays the pilot, and she does some of the songs that I in particular like. That I was really amazed by. So I put the two Newfoundlanders because wanted them there, and all of these people kindly allowed me to do this.
That's wonderful.
They let me put them in my book.
Well, I did. You did a beautiful job with it. I
Thank
recognized
you.
who they were.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Absolutely,
you so much.
yeah. And it's just lovely. But how nice! And you know what's interesting? I had seen the play also in
Yes.
Gander. Then I checked it out in Toronto.
Right.
And I was sitting next to a couple of investors in the show.
Wow.
Who realized that myself and my daughters were from Newfoundland, and they were like, "This was one of the best investments we ever made."
Oh, yeah. People should learn. Invest in Newfoundland.
Well, invest in
Newfoundland and
theater, always
Labrador
a
and
message.
theater.
And theater.
Yes,
Yeah.
all good things.
Okay.
Absolutely, Kathryn.
And now here's little Commander Gander holding his hat.
This is him in a pensive moment.
Yeah,
This
at the
is
ground
and this
zero.
is where some kids may actually have a question. And when I've read it at schools, they will ask like, why does he look sad? And I say because the things that happened in New York and in the other places in America were quite sad, and people lost their lives. I tell little kids, I don't get into great detail, but I say this is a memorial that's in New York that reminds everybody, everyone's name is there who lost their life. And so people go there so they can remember all these very important people, everyday people, important people, people from all walks of life. And the Commander just wanted to show his respect and go there. So that was really important to me. I wanted that to be there, that although it's a fun children's book, you still have to have that importance of the significance of, as you said, the tragedy that it underlies
And
it
that
all.
was one of the challenges.
It was a challenge.
in trying to put that together. There's no doubt. What is the age group for this particular book?
Well, all my books, I think, since except the first one. The first one was alphabet books, so it was recommended for very little kids. But all of them since are from K to 3. Kindergarten to grade 3 is what the official.
So 5 to about 8.
5 till about 8. Yeah,
so-
exactly.
and a little maybe on either side,
Well,
depending. Families
Exactly.
may come and read your book once they do. So now, taking your beautiful drawings, are these particular drawings going to end up in the airport at all? Or any
Not that
idea?
I'm aware of, but I'm open to that. If
Yeah.
if someone asks me, I'm very open to that. Usually, I will sell a few if I'm approached from my illustrations. I give a lot of them away. I give a lot to schools and libraries where I go speak, and usually, if there's any connection to that place. For instance, I had the Salmon Interpretation Center here in one of my books called Around Newfoundland, and I gave the illustration of that to the library here because that is where it should be.
Yeah.
And so I do that a lot. I will give it to places, and where this book is new, I haven't been very many places with it yet, but I will give some to some places, and I haven't even had a good chat with the people at the airport, but I would love to have at least one be kept at the airport.
Yeah, it would be nice because it is a connection to what you've done, and it certainly would resonate with the airport.
I think you're right.
I think it's not a bad idea.
I think you're right.
Pursue that one.
Yep, I need to do that.
Now, taking your illustrations, and it's Flanker Press.
Yes, Flanker Press, my fabulous publisher.
They do some wonderful, wonderful work with Newfoundland authors.
Oh,
they do.
They
absolutely.
really, really do.
I've had many guests on here who've been published through Flanker. Now, when you take your paintings there, is it difficult for them to reproduce and so on? Is there a lot of work that goes into that part of it, or do they pretty much have that down?
I think they have that down. Peter Haynes is the gentleman that deals with the layouts of my work, who works with Flanker, and he's quite talented. And I think they have that pretty well down. With this book, the challenge was getting everyone to say yes. And Flanker Press most definitely was integral to that. I really needed their help. This was a different experience for me in that way. But it still takes, to set the text where it needs to be and to get the colors on each page to be, because, even though when I'm painting, I try to reproduce colors faithfully, one illustration to another, inevitably over a period of 4 months. Some of them will be slightly lighter or slightly darker or whatever. So, they definitely have some fine tuning to do. All of it above my pay grade. I'm not sure. I'm not technological at all. So I don't know what they do, but I know Peter Haynes does it, and he does a fabulous job. So I'm thrilled with the way this one looks.
In the hands of the professionals.
Oh.
But you did mention that a lot of people had to agree, and I assume for a license to use Commander Gander, license to refer to Come From Away on the cover, to be able to delve into those areas,
Oh, now that is a whole different world. Something I had no idea about, and I knew it was going to be difficult. When we got back from New York in July, my husband and I, the first thing I did was I called and made an appointment to go see our mayor, Percy Farwell, who's a wonderful man and very kind. And I went and I told him what my idea was, and we talked about it. And there was a whole process. The first thing, they had to strike a committee to talk about whether or not to allow me to use Commander Gander in this way. And that had to go through the committee process, go to a town meeting. It had to be voted on by the town council, and that was just the first step. That was to get to use Commander Gander. And I knew I was able to write a synopsis of exactly what would be happening in the book, because it came full blown, really. The idea was beginning, middle, and end was very clear to me. I knew what I would be saying. So at least that worked out. And then once that happened, and Flanker Press, then I went to Flanker Press and I said, this is the idea, what do you guys think? They were incredibly supportive and said, oh yeah, this is something, we can see what you see. We think it would be great, and we need to start to ask the people who matter, and there were so many of them. There are so many people, from the writers to the producers to the people that market it, to the people that design the set. I didn't realize that. I did a painting of the set. I didn't have anything from the actual play. There's no dialogue or anything like that from the actual musical. But I did have the set there because I thought it was so pretty. And I didn't realize that meant, of course, that we had to ask the set designer's permission to allow an image of the set. So the list just kept getting so long for all these people. But, and I did lose sleep over that, I will have to admit, because I had already invested my time, but more importantly, my heart. And anyone who writes, I'm sure you guys out there, it's your heart that matters more than your time. And I was really afraid that at some point someone was just going to say no and that it would just be shelved. But luckily that didn't happen.
But I can feel your pain there, because that can, when there's so many requirements for consent on so many levels that you have no control over. They have to see your vision. Is it possible that the book may be on sale at the theater? Is it
That is
there?
being worked on
It's being worked
right
on.
now. In fact, Flanker Press are hard at that. And of course, then you have the customs issues, and you have the exchange rate issues, and you have all of this. So it's not easy, but we're hoping that we'll get through all of those things and have it for sale. That's the plan.
Well, what a fabulous story. The telling of how this came to be, and what a fabulous adventure. Dawn, again, as we kind of wrap up here, how do people reach you, and the best way for them to reach out to you?
The best way for anyone to reach me is by Facebook. As I was saying earlier, that has turned out to be, I had to be talked into Facebook. I was very late to that game, but it's so easy. Just private message me on Facebook, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Or on Twitter. I'm on Twitter as well, so you could message me on Twitter also, or call me. I'm in the phone book. I'm in Gander, so I'm
not hard to reach.
I'm not hard to find, and I love talking about and hearing from anyone who's got any, I just love that.
And Dawn, I think as a final message as we conclude here, you're quite often available to read books as well.
I am.
Yeah. So good for people to think.
I love doing that.
Yeah. So maybe if you're very interested in Dawn's book and you would like to hear her read it, that's something you can message her on. Thank you so much for coming in today and sharing this with us. I think I've learned a lot, and I hope the audience has as well.
It's an absolute pleasure. You are so easy to talk to. Thank you.
Well, thank you.